Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dan Fodanjo, and today I'm joined by Marcin Nims Filipovic to bring to you the VGVN Next Ramos Release Tournament number 2, day number 2 with Group A, before we get into our final four to find out who is going to advance and get part of the $2,500 prize pool. Today we have Amaz from Team Liquid, Hype from Temple Storm, Tice from Meet Your Makers, and Hiara from the Open Bracket and no affiliation to any team. Should be a lot of fun games. And of course, it's going to be a fun time casting with you, Nims, once again.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm happy for today's games, and it's a pleasure to be here to cast with you as well, Frodan. We'll have a lot of cool matches. Those players are pretty amazing, Amaz included. Maybe let's talk about those players to explain who they are exactly and why are they here. What do they achieve? Can you tell us more about Amaz specifically?
Well, I don't really know what else you can really say about Amaz. If you haven't really followed his content, then you probably don't really know too much about the Hearthstone streaming scene. Just because Amaz is out there always putting out fun highlights for his fan base on his YouTube, on his Twitch channel. The guy is known as RNGesus slash Yugi Moto slash whatever lucky guy you want to coin from every kind of story that's out there. Amaz has been a guy that's been kind of unfairly depicted as a guy that only gets lucky, but then now he's been backing up with consistency and results. Just yesterday, he was also in the finals of another tournament, and he did fall, but again, another top 2 finish for this guy from Team Liquid, and the guy is able to put out result after result. He comes in as the winner of the previous Nax Ramos release tournament by VGVN, and he's also won a few other tournaments too, like the Millennium Cup and IEM Shenzhen in recent memory. He is the guy that you come in and immediately say, whenever you underestimate Amaz, he ends up winning the whole thing. And, every player in the back of their mind fears him, not just because of decks he brings, but also because no matter what kind of situation he's in, he's somehow able to pull himself out. It seems like the guy's impervious to any kind of situation that can throw danger at him.
Oh yeah, certainly. He seems like a favorite coming into this group. But on the other hand, he has formidable opponents. For example, Tyson Nell from MYM, a player who was not known previously, but he had a very good run on the I Heart You King of the Hill series. I think he won 9 matches straight. Savit stopped him from winning the 10th. And he defeated some really good opponents, including Strife Crow and myself included, let's say. But definitely Thijs, yeah, I had to throw it in. Anyways, Thijs is a very good player. He's always preparing for the tournaments. He has the strategy mapped out. He's really preparing a lot, reading about his opponents, getting as much information as possible. He also had a good run at DreamHack Summer, so he is an experienced player, even though he hasn't played card games before. Right now, he's really a veteran of Hearthstone as well, so a formidable opponent. And on the other hand, there is Hyped, and being a Temple Storm manager, what can you tell us about Hyped?
I can tell you that Hyped probably has played more Hearthstone than anybody that I know currently. And I've talked to most of the pros, and I've gotten a good sense of how much Hearthstone they've played. And I feel like Hyped easily outnumbers them by maybe 1.4, 1.3 times the amount of games. Like, the guy has grinded so much on ladder, and for good reason, because he's been making sure he stays on top of the ladder, because Hyped is also the #1 ranked seed for the BlizzCon qualifiers at the moment and gets a bye through the first round, I think. And that's a testament to how much he's been able to play the open cups from Zotax to Gosu cups, as well as maintain top of ladder results. People have been wanting to see Hyped more in tournaments because they feel like his consistency on the ladder should be able to translate to tournaments, but yet we haven't seen him much. So it's going to be a really important tournament to see how Hype performs. The last time we saw Hype, I believe you beat him in Tavern Takeover and denied him in the round of 8, Nimsh. And so this time with no Nimsh, maybe Hype can finally flourish.
Also, there's a question about Hype that I'm always curious to ask. Does he have like an evil twin or like a long lost brother? Because when I was doing research on Hype, when I was going to face him in Tavern Takeover, it struck me that there are 2 Hyped like on the ladder of an A. It's like there was Hyped on rank 1 and Hyped rank 2. So what's up with that?
Nope, he's just that damn good. Hyped is able to take decks that are really popular and innovate them to be the best. In fact, the modern Miracle Rogue that people see, a lot of the innovation came from Hyped, and people copied his deck lists and used it to kind of climb. And that's why you saw 15 out of the 16 players that were top 16 in Season 1 were in fact Miracle Rogues because they saw what Hype was doing. Reynad immediately recognized the talent and grabbed him as soon as he could, recognizing that he's a hot commodity. And I think it's finally time that we see some results from Hyped, just because a lot of people can be great ladder players in any game, whether it's StarCraft, League of Legends, Dota. They can climb the high MMRs or ELO rankings, and yet they still need to translate that to tournament play. Hyped is not without his errors. Sometimes he is a little bit too ingrained in his ways, and that's sometimes a victim of his own play style, because when you play thousands of games, you're used to a certain pattern, and sometimes it creates bad habits. But now that he's been working with Tempo Storm for a while, he's been practicing hard and beating some of those bad habits out and really starting to take criticism well. So I think Hype comes in here with a really high chance to advance today.
Okay, and the last opponent that Hype will be facing here is Hiara. Hiara is a player who was not known. He's one of those Hearthstone pros that that has a chance now to actually shine. He plowed through the NA qualifier, single elimination, 8 rounds. He was able to defeat a lot of good players, and on the back of his warrior, he was really playing well with his warrior. He has a very interesting builds as well. Like he was playing Kel'Thuzad in his hunter. Maybe he changed it right now, but a Kel'Thuzad hunter deck, that sounds interesting. So even though he doesn't have any experience with the card games, he was showing very good results on the open qualifier, and I certainly hope that the games that he'll play will be interesting. And I'm curious to see his style of play as well. Like playing a lot of warrior, maybe he's more of a control player, maybe more aggro, maybe a mixture. So another new player that's entering the scene and has a chance to actually advance. So seeing Sixo yesterday, I certainly hope that Hiara can actually make it. But on the other hand, his group seems like a group of death with Amaz, Hyped, and Ty.
I think so. I mean, yesterday's group was also really powerful on paper, just because of what everyone's able to do in their tournament results. Today is no less intimidating for some of these guys. Hiara might seem like the weakest player on paper, but in the previous qualifier, 1 round short of qualifying. I believe it was top 4 or top 8. Like, he got that close. So this guy shown amazing consistency too, to go through 2 open qualifiers and almost qualifying twice, and the second time finally breaking through. So maybe this guy is one that people shouldn't be sleeping on. In fact, 3 out of the 4 players here are people who kind of carved out their names for themselves by trying to show a lot of results. Hyped with ladder, Tice with King of the Hill, and Hiara through the open bracket of tournaments. Each of them having their own stake and trying to make sure that they can stay here. Because again, if you are able to place top 2 in the finals of this event, you most likely will be getting an invite back for next Rammus VGVN number 3. So these guys want to do well in the groups. They want to make sure they're here to stay. And I'm looking forward to the games, Nimsh. What do we have to start things off?
Well, I'm actually not sure which match will be first, because I didn't get a schedule. Definitely, we can remind our viewers about the format. So those players will be playing in a round-robin format. So this means that everybody will play against everybody. So at least we'll have 6 matches today. And if a player loses two first matches, it doesn't mean that he's eliminated, because the scores might be set up in a way so that he still will advance if one of the players goes 3-0 and the others have the same score. Players will play the best of 5 matches with the ban format, so they will know each other classes. Then they select one class that they want to ban, and then they will face each other with the classes that they pick. So a pretty good format that allows the players to prepare and apply certain strategies. Like, a lot of players would love to ban Hunter, but other players, they just leave Hunter alone. They ban Zulok, and they prepare their decks so that actually can win versus Hunter decks. So we've seen a lot of the strategies yesterday. I'm sure that today we will see them again. And I just got information that the first match that we are going to see will be Hyped versus Amaz. So
Ooh.
What do you say about this match? How do you think Hype will match up versus Amaz, where Hype is the mostly ladder player?
If you can only pick one match to kind of tune in for, I think this is the one that people want to see the most. It's kind of like an old established guard here with Amaz. He's been around in the tournament scene for a while, versus Hype, the guy that people want to put eyeballs on to see if the Hype really going to be able to live up to, because this guy has a lot of results again behind his name. And of course, people like Reynad and Rekful have been hyping this guy. I feel like I need to use another term for it because it might confusing the verb with the actual username.
Promoting, maybe?
they've been promoting or bragging about how good this guy is for a while. And so everyone is highly anticipating to see this series, in my opinion. Let's go to the ban screen. But before we start discussing everything else, I want to remind you guys there is a chance for you to win the Zeus Mini PC in the bottom right of the screen that you see. All you have to do is fill out this this newsletter sign up and find out more about the VGVN, the Video Games Voter Network. We'll be talking about it all throughout the broadcast. So don't worry if you missed your opportunity here. If you're just getting in halfway through the explanation, we'll be talking about it throughout the rest of the show. Just type an exclamation point giveaway or go to the bottom of the Twitch channel and find out more information.
Okay, and we can see now the decklist screen. Both players banned Hunter, which is not surprising. So both of them are fine in a Hunter-less metagame. And Hyped is bringing his Miracle Rogue. He is a known Miracle Rogue player, as we mentioned. This is kind of like a standard build. It seems like he cut Assassin's Blade. He's probably expecting a lot of Harrison Jones. Well, actually, I was talking to him, so I'm not figuring it out myself. Like he did cut Assassin's Blade because he was expecting a lot of Harrison Jones in this control-heavy group against those players. Also, he added Coldbloods to be a bit more aggressive after cutting Assassin's Blade. On the other hand, Amaz is playing his trusty Paladin that he was playing in many show matches before. A rather standard build. And what do you think about this matchup, Froden? Miracle Rogue versus Paladin. We've discussed it before at the VGVN1, but remind me, please, like how does it actually work?
So if the game goes really late, you know, eventually Miracle Rogue runs out of damage because Paladin can heal. It's got a wave of taunts. It's got lots of ways to go for board clears, and if it gets a quality and like Pyromancer, it can shut down Concealed Gadgetzan. But that's if everything goes according to game plan and assuming that Miracle Rogue doesn't draw into the way that they're supposed to, right? If they don't get Gadgetzan, if they don't get a lot of their cycle cards like Gnomish Inventor and draws. But that's the whole reason why Hyped even built this deck in the first place, which got popular. Cards like the Gnomish Inventor and Azure Drake, and even Lotheb, Hype was putting it in too as soon as he got the opportunity to give the Miracle deck more threats and consistency, so that way you don't have to be reliant so much on Gadgetzan Auctioneer. It's going to be a very finite window where Miracle Rogue can do a lot of damage early game and even to the mid game, and Paladin can't recover. But if Amaz can stabilize, there's also a point where Miracle is going to be running out of saps, running out of damage, and then cards like Tyrion will just absolutely destroy everything in its path.
Yeah, the last time we've seen this matchup, Reels was playing versus 6-0, I believe, and Reels actually rushed 6-0 with his Paladin, but here Amaz doesn't have that many low-cost minions, I feel. Well, he has Harvest Golems and Wild Pyromancers, but still, Reels was running Haunted Creepers. So I will definitely give edge to Hyped in this matchup, but we'll have to see.
All right, well, game one is about to begin. Hyped versus Amaz, the match that people were probably most anticipating is going to start things off in this group. And remember, the first win is one of the most important, so that it sets the tone for the rest of the series. Amaz is going to be on the coin for this, so at least he denies that extra card for Hyped, which is kind of good. But at the same time, sometimes when you're playing these control decks, you want to have that extra mana so you can put the threats a little bit quicker and be able to respond to your opponents. But I guess you kind of take the good with the bad. At least you denied the Miracle the coin.
Oh yeah, certainly. On the other hand, Hype mulligan his whole hands, I guess to get a Gadgetzan or maybe a C7. He did mulligan Edwin because he didn't have a coin. If you have a coin, it's good to keep Edwin because it's a solid free drop. But here, well, he didn't have it, so he did have to mulligan. Right now, his hand looks pretty meek, with no Gadgetzan, no free drops. He only has spells, and he also doesn't have any good way to draw cards. So it doesn't look good for Hyped with this hand, even though in the matchup he has an advantage. But you have to remember that a good matchup is like 70 to 80%. So it means that the deck still loses 20 to 30% if you get a bad hand or if your opponent is able to stabilize.
Yeah, it's actually a good point. You give Paladin the ability to build the board against you early, and they do have sticky / annoying minions with Sen'jin. Sludge Belchers, and even Harvest Golem can just sneak in a lot of damage over the course of turns. But picking up this Gnomish Inventor was very key. It gives Hype something to do on turn 4 nonetheless, which is always often an awkward mana turn. Now his hand looks pretty good if he picks up Gadgetzan, but if he doesn't, and he's picking up other stuff like second prep, he's going to be hurting for a while.
Oh, that Kodo had so much value. Coin Kodo, he built up the board, he destroyed the board of his opponent, and right now Amaz can just apply pressure. If you apply pressure, Miracle Rogue has a problem because it's not easy. Well, you only have Farseers, right? And I think like Hype actually cut one Farseer, so he only has one Farseer to be able to heal. But other than that, there are no taunts. So what Hype has to do is he has to retain board control and then actually get his combos and be able to push with damage. Right now he is defending, which is definitely not good. And Paladin has a lot of very strong cards like Sludge Belcher on turn 5, Current on turn 6. And then he has those Senjins that will be able to stop Leroy's and other weird cards that Hype will be able to play. So Amaz's hand looks really amazing for the current situation.
You know, and Hype's going to try to see if he can recover from this with Van Cleef. He's also doing this and spreading out his damage, so that way, in case something like Aldor Peacekeeper comes out, or Humility, this Van Cleef can at least still be able to trade against this Harvest Golem, rather than just overkilling and saving a little bit of HP. I think it makes sense, granted that Paladin can't burst, and so you're not as careful with your health. Unless you see like a true Silver Champion equipped, there's no way for Paladin to surprise damage you, so you can play a little liberally here.
Oh yeah, certainly. If you don't get a Gadget Sand and Leroy, you definitely have to do something. And Edwin is a card that can push with damage if not answered. But unfortunately for Hype, Amaz has Equality, which is a great answer to Edwin. But being Amaz here, do you even want to use Equality? Because, well, this Edwin is a 6/6. If you play a Sludge Belcher, it still seems that it might stop Edwin. But yeah, personally, I would play Equality as well, because the other option to play Equality would be to kill Concealed Gadget Sun, but you don't have a follow-up. Like, you don't have Pyromancer and Consecration, and here you just, you know, get rid of a threat, and Hype is in a really bad position with double preparation.
Yeah, he's losing really important turns. He might have to sap with no gain to kind of benefit off of it. To benefit off of it. Usually, saps allows you to push with whatever minions you have on the board, but if you're using sap defensively,
oh my god, he got a Gadget Sun. This is exactly what he needed. He has double preparation. He has that sap. He will get a lot of value. This game has changed completely right now.
There we go.
That's the thing about Gadget
second sap.
You know, that's Miracle Rogue. It's if you don't get Gadget Sand, those cards are just bad. They don't do anything. Like preparation is just a bad card if you don't have Gadget Sand. But here, well, suddenly it's so much better.
Yeah, well, I'm inclined to agree, and I think Hyped has pretty much a good way to continue pushing through because he's got Azure Drake and other ways to chain. He's a little bit uncomfortable with maybe leaving up this token, but at the same time, you don't want to be missing damage. It's a little bit of a trade-off. Not to mention that Gadgetzan also is kind of just easily taken out by True Silver, and you're not that confident in your card draw because you're still a few pieces away from being able to end the game. Things like Leroy Shadow Step are still some of the cards you're looking for at the moment.
Well, he will be very happy to learn that Amaz actually doesn't have any way to deal with this right now. Can't kill it.
Yeah, the best thing he can do at the moment is just take off some of his damage and set up a taunt with Aldor Peacekeeper.
You know, it's a situation that you really don't want to find yourself in being Amaz. It's like you stare at Gadgets and Auctioneer. You're like, I know what is going to happen. I have to remove this, but you simply can't. Like, what are you even going to do? That's why maybe the equality play wasn't the best, because right now you only have the minions. You don't have any removal in your hand. Using Aldor Peacekeeper on Gadgets and Auctioneer is just sad. So yeah, I guess you just try to build up your board, but right now this turn might be so amazing for Hype.
All right. Well, with Hypes, how do you kind of combine and chain draw as much as you can? I don't even think you need to use second sap here first. I think you can utilize this deadly poison you just drew. I think that's what he's going for. Ooh, Leroy off the top. That's a nice way to start counting down damage.
How much is this?
We've got 10 from Leroy, 5 from the Blade Flurry. That's 15 plus the Gadget End if he can push through. So if he can kind of pair everything together, he's got 19 damage right here this turn. But I think Leroy's obviously going to be waiting for Shadow Step.
Well, he has a sap anyway, so right now he can just continue drawing cards.
Gosh.
And also deal some damage. Why not?
Hype's counting his cards, by the way, just to make sure he doesn't overdraw. If he shivs for this and he draws 2 more cards, Will he be stuck at 10? Wants to just make sure not to overdraw here, and I think he should be okay. He'll be at 9, I believe.
Yeah, it's fine. He also had an option to weapon up, but right now with Leroy's Shadow Step and Sap,
God.
so Amaz has to destroy the Gadgetzan and also taunt up. That Gadgetzan actually changed the game completely.
Well, that's a little bit of an understatement. I think Amaz got a little unlucky with how the things changed, right? He got Aldor Peacekeeper for the Gadgetzan and Equality for the Van Cleef. If he could have just had those cards come in different sequence, Amaz actually would have been a lot differently. He would have been able to deny these draws. Pretty much the entire, like, 7 cards that, right from the Farseer that Hyped has wouldn't be in his hand. And maybe Amaz can start putting on pressure back on his opponent, but instead, he can't fit everything, and it looks like Hype's going to be able to take game 1 here.
Yeah, it's funny how Hyped is counting the cards all the time to check if Leroy will actually go to his hand with Shadow Step.
Sure.
Because it happened to some players before. You play Leroy, you think, hey, I won, and then you Shadow Step, you draw a card, and then you don't get a Leroy because you have... Leroy is an 11th card, so... That would be a bad way to start the tournament, but he counted correctly, he got the kill, and that Gadget's an Auctioneer. Like, without it, this game would be so pathetic from Hype's side, but he got it, and he was able to steal the win.
Alright, well, Hyped now is going to be up to a very nice start, and Amaz is going to turn to his Priest deck. And I think it's just also telling that he's not confident in Shaman, but maybe his Priest has some ability to wiggle in here. Let's see if there's anything specific that he's changed. You know, Amaz, well known for Priest, but he's also been a little bit slow on playing like the new modern Priest that we've been accustomed to with Zombie Chows and a little bit more aggressive Death Rattles. It seems like he's still sticking with the tried and true, but slipping in things like Death Lord and Sludge Belchers.
Yeah, it's interesting that he doesn't play Dark Cultist, but he is playing Death Lord. So a Death Lord is a weird card because on the one hand, it's stopping the advance of opposing minions, but on the other hand, it can get your opponent something really good like Kern or Sludge Belcher. So I'm not convinced if the card is good. So I'm definitely interested to see like how Amaz will use it and what we'll get from Death Lord. He also did cut one injured Blade Master. Also, a funny thing is that he's playing Harrison Jones again in his second deck. So here it only shows that Hype's decision to cut his Assassin's Blade was actually pretty good, and it might pay off. So, well, Miracle Rogue versus Priest, definitely an interesting thing. It's Priest will have to get the Circle of Healing, Okanai Soul Priest combo, or be able to clear the board with Wild Paramancer. Personally, from the Priest perspective, I don't like this matchup that much, but well, it's Amaz. Amaz knows his matchups. He knows how to play against Miracle Rogue with Priest, so definitely he can win this as well. It's not that bad for him, and it's funny. It's his deck is actually called Golden Purple. Like, I was thinking about this name when I saw this, and I was like, yeah, it's actually all the cards are purple. Like, kind of weird.
Well, I think Amaz is going to be in for a tough time still. It's not easy by any means to win this game. Game number 2 is about to begin, so let's jump into the board and see if Amaz can tie up the series or will Hype jump out to a 2-0 lead and be in prime position to close it out, because Shaman's also going to struggle against Miracle Rogue. Once again, Hype not on the coin, but it didn't stop in the previous game. As long as you can get these key cards to continue cycling, like Azure Drake and Gnomish Inventor, you're still off to a decent start. Of course, Gadgetzan is the one you're searching for because Priest has a hard time removing unless they have the 2-card combo of Circle Healing Akanai, like you pointed out.
Yeah, and again, Hype didn't get the Gadgetzan Auctioneer, and his hand looks kind of weird, but it's not bad. He'd probably like to get a backstab, but still, it doesn't look bad. He will, if he draws into that Gadgetzan at a certain point, that will be good. He has that Gnomish Inventor to be able to play a 4-drop. On the other hand, Amaz, well, he has the Death Lord, so he will be able to apply some early pressure, and Death Lord might actually be hard to kill for Hyped. Deadly Poison, a nice card to get. He will be able to utilize it. Do you even Blade Flurry now?
Well, I mean, you don't necessarily need to. You're not under that much pressure. SI7 allows you to put on a little damage. Sure, he's going to draw a card, most likely. But at least the Northshire Cleric can't draw immediately off of that either. It can't attack in and kill it, that is, unless you want to sacrifice it immediately. So I think Amaz is still kind of okay with the situation, and so is Hyped. Or is he going to trade for it? I guess so. Wow. I'm a little surprised by that.
That was a good call, because without that, Hype would be able to clear the board and get something from Deathlord. But here, a 4/4 Edwin, a 4 attack card, which is really hard to deal with if you're a priest. How is Amaz going to deal with it, even? I guess he just fought. Yeah, Thought Steal is a great card to play. And he gets a Gadget.
He gets a Gadget Sand, and he gets Cold Blood. Wow.
This is sick.
He can also utilize Circle of Healing to put on a really strong minion, too. A 6/7 once again. What a series of events. Maybe Amaz knew everything. You know, I'm always a little hesitant to sacrifice Northshire Cleric just because it's one of your ways to draw into things, like your combo piece that you need. And as a priest player, you need to get a fast start as possible. But what a way to kind of have everything else. Hyped, fortunately, has a board clear with Blade Flurry.
If he gets a Leroy, this is so awkward.
Oh, and it's a low tab.
Okay, low tab is fine.
Yeah.
Imagine getting Leroy in here. If he gets a Leroy, what happens?
Well, you're pretty screwed unless you have, because you lost Van Cleef and you lost Leroy, so what other win conditions do you have? You just have to actually push with damage with Azure Drake and Gadgets in.
Yeah. The Novish Inventor.
Whoa. Well, Hyped realizing that he dodged a potential game-ending bullet there.
Those two draws were so good for Hype. Now he has all the tools, and he still has spells, so... I'm not sure if he will be playing Gadgets on next turn, but having Gadgets on here gives him options. Like, instead of being desperate and trying to get as much damage as possible, now he can relax, and he's in a situation like, hey, I can just wait 2 more turns, get some more spells in my hand, some more combo pieces, and then just play Gadgets on and get everything I need to finish the game.
Speaking of Gadgets in, this might be surprising. Well, Hype says, well, he drew Cold Blood and Gadgets in as his 2 cards. And now Amaz is the one cycling through. He picks up Harrison Jones and Wild Pyromancer. 2 cards that could impact this matchup.
Conceal from the
off
top.
The top for Hype. Wow.
Yeah, this is sick. Is he going to kill this Gadgets on? Oh yeah, he exactly has enough. So, perfect. I guess you have to kill it.
I mean, I don't think you want to give your opponent the opportunity to keep drawing, but Priest doesn't synergize as easily off of it unless he's running a lot of the low-cost spells, which Amaz does. Modern Priests use a lot less spells. They don't run Holy Smites as often. Ooh, he's gonna conceal before attacking. I guess it means he's just gonna trade anyways. Doesn't matter. He wanted to see if maybe he can pick up a card that can probably continue to put damage out.
Like Deadly Poison. Then you can just keep the 2/4 on board, kind of. I'm still amazed about that Thought Steal, by the way. Like, Amaz is known for getting exactly the cards he needs with Thought Steal, where a lot of players say Thought Steal is overrated because you just get to random cards and mostly Deadly Poisons. Amaz, when he casts it, he always gets the cards he needs. But now again, he is not able to deal with the Gadgets and Auctioneer. So Hype will have a miracle turn on turn 8 with a lot of spells in his hand. Even that Sap.
Oh, and a preparation. That's going to give Hyped a lot more cards. So everything's just panning out perfectly for this Miracle Road. Gadgetzan showing up at the right time for Hyped.
A second Gadgetzan is a blank for now. But still, he has so many cards and so much mana that he's able to get everything he needs.
Wow, he can pretty much push through everything here. And still have something to drop a 3-drop comfortably.
Well, he will be able to push with some damage from Gadgetzan, but he still has 5 mana, so...
I guess you shiv so that way you can play Farce here. Oh, never mind. He's gonna go Fan of Knives then if he just shivs directly. Doesn't want to waste any damage whatsoever.
That backstab after you deal damage to the taunts.
Sure.
But yeah, backstab will be useful anyway.
I mean, the point is Hyped is trying to optimize his damage, draw as many cards as possible. You know, the fact that he's a second Gadgetzan doesn't matter. He can win now, essentially, by grabbing other second Shadow Step and setting up for a lethal this way. He's got Leroy and Shadow Step in hand, and he's got 7 on board, so he's just a few damage points short at the moment.
On the other hand, he has to be mindful about the card count, because if you get too many cards, it might be troublesome. But
Well,
certainly, I agree. He's in a very good position to win this game next turn, if possible.
Amaz can kill the Gadget Sand, but he actually chooses to use Harrison Jones. Could have used a Wild Pyromancer with preparation. Oh, he actually never mind. Is that enough mana?
Well,
Can you Wild Pyromancer prep Holy Nova? And that's
16, 20. I don't think he has enough mana to actually win.
I'm just surprised that Amaz left up Gadget Sand here. I felt like he had an opportunity to kill it with a preparation Holy Nova play, but maybe he was a little bit short of mana because I think preparation. No, I think he had enough. Either way, this Gadget Sand has now continued the draws, and Hyped is getting very close to damage with that Cold Blood.
That's lethal.
That is lethal, I believe. Oh no. Hype draw through almost all of his deck already, and game number 2 has quickly been ended. And Amaz is going to jump, or actually, Hype is going to jump out to a 2-0 lead, and Amaz is going to have to rely on his Shaman deck to get him through.
Yeah, that was pretty well, really well played by Hype. He knows this deck. He played so many games. I think. Do you think he played even more than 1,000 games with Miracle Rogue?
Oh, easily.
Yeah, on two accounts,
Easily.
definitely.
Fact is, multiple seasons he's been high ranked twice over with Miracle Rogue. So the guy has played thousands of games with Miracle Rogue, and it seems like it's kind of foolish, right? You don't want to waste a ban on Miracle Rogue essentially if you're afraid of Hunter, but then that gives Hyped freedom to play his favorite class and his best archetype.
Yeah, right now Hype is in a really good position because people will ban Hunter, and this makes Hype open to the Miracle Rogue, so he can play his favorite deck, the deck he trained a lot with. So, well, again, Amaz will be playing Harrison Jones, so not playing Assassin's Blade, a good decision. And looking at Amaz's Shaman, this is his last deck for this match. He has to 3-0 Hyped with it. Deck looks okay, a standard Shaman build. Like the last VGVN tournament, Amaz was playing a more combo-oriented deck, but the combo didn't come with Baron, Rivendare, and Reincarnate. So this one is much more streamlined with standard minions, a lot of sticky minions, Death Rattles, Taunts, a Doomhammer. So something that Sixer was playing as well. But on the other hand, I feel like Miracle Rogue has an edge again. If Miracle Rogue gets a Gachina Auctioneer, this game can end pretty quickly. If he doesn't, it will end for Miracle Rogue because Shaman has a lot of early game and will be able to just rush Miracle Rogue before it stabilizes without Gadgetzan. So I feel like this is the Gadgetzan game again, and I'm giving edge to Hype because the probability of getting Gadgetzan is actually pretty high.
Yeah, I think if you can continue the draws, stuff like double Fan of Knives is actually very important in this matchup because of the ways totems work and being able to pressure your opponent, and even taunt totems can be a really big annoyance to Miracle Rogue. So Hype has a lot of ways to deal with it. And Amaz has interesting cards to deal with Miracle Rogue, like Spectral Knight could potentially be a big thorn in the side. But, who knows? Amaz only running one copy of it, and maybe that's not even enough to kind of push Miracle Rogue out of this game. Let's jump into the board and find out if Hype's going to sweep to start things off here, or will Maz finally stop the pain train of Rogue and force Hype to win with something else? Which, by the way, he has Warrior and Mage lined up to go, which sounds very enticing, considering that we haven't seen too much Mage than 6-0.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see that Mage, by the way. So Amaz on a coin again for the third time. What does it even mean? RNG? And Hype gets the Gachina Auctioneer. This is the most important card in this matchup, as mentioned. And he can relax and well, he has a lot of good cards. He gets Conceal as well. Oh my god. He
pairs
has Fun of
everything
Knives. Exactly. And Backstab, Fun of Knives. He has everything he needs for the early game, kind of. And Gadgetzan and Conceal. Well, this looks pretty good for Hype. On the other hand, Amaz, well, he has a good start as well. He has a lot of early game cards. He has a lot of burst and a double hex. I'm not sure how useful hex is, but still, it's a good card to have anyway.
I think Doomhammer is actually very important for Amaz. Doomhammer is one of these ways, because Rogue, they've been cutting back the Farseers, and it's one of those ways that you can push in a lot of damage, and Rock Biters can end the game very quickly if you pair it with the Doomhammers. And there is an opportunity, like say Shaman can pressure and get 6-8 damage off of these Feral Spirits. You pair together maybe a 10 damage burst, and you're not looking at too much more in order to push Rogue out of the game. So as much as Hype does have a lot of cards, if Amaz can find a way to continue sneaking damage, perhaps he has a way to win.
And Amaz will have a lot of burst with the Flametongue Totem because
also true.
Hype is not able to clear the whole board. He is taking damage. He got rid of one of the wolves, but still, this is 4 points of damage here. With the Flametongue coming in, this is totally 8, so Hype will drop to 18. And next turn, he has no way to clear the board.
Yeah.
Also, Gadgets and Conceal is turn 6. By turn 6, he actually might be dead.
Oh, Amaz just chooses to go for a more passive route and chooses to save Flametongue Totem. I don't know, if you're going to play Doomhammer next turn anyways and start whacking away, I feel like Flametongue is a priority to squeeze in, so if he can't respond to your minion damage... Gosh, because imagine if this was placed between the Feral Spirit Wolf and the Spectral Spider, you'd be able to squeeze in 4 more extra damage there. Or 6, because you have to take an extra shot with his hero power.
Yeah, you know, but it's an easy decision when we see both hands of the players.
Also very true.
Amaz is probably playing around Blade Flurry, which is exactly 3 damage to board, so he will lose a lot. He wants to utilize his hero power at creating totems to be able to save cards, and that Flametongue Totem will still deal damage. Like in this situation, Flametongue was obviously the better card because we know that Hyped didn't actually have a way to deal with it. But still, right now, Gadgetson, Conceal, and only 15 points of health.
Yeah. Has to kind of be cautious about everything. He's been constantly using his hero power, and this is the opportunity that Amaz has been looking for. In fact, if he picks up Rockbiter, that's game right there, because he has the ability to coin out.
It's game right now.
Oh, because of the Flametongue, you're right.
Yeah, he has an overkill.
Here we go. So Amaz is going to be able to take this game and rush Hype down completely by turn 6.
Oh man, this is so weird, right? It's the way for Shaman to win, but Hyped kind of had all the cards he needed. He played his Gadgetsan with Conceal, and when you play Gadgetsan Conceal, you're like, I got it, I got this game. It's like now I can do everything I want. But then he just died, and he wasn't able to utilize his spells. And now he picks his warrior with Kel'Thuzad. What do you think about this deck?
Well, you know, it's interesting that he's picking Warrior directly into Shaman, which means he's really confident in being able to fight against it. But I also see that he's missing some key cards to fight against Shaman, like Brawl. I mean, Baron Geddon's always in and out, and you can kind of make a case for things like Whirlwind, but it seems like he's playing a super late game centric Warrior deck. In fact, I think the only other deck that reminds me of this is Trump's Warrior deck, which just has an amazing amount of legendaries in it. This is Beta Win deck, if you ask me, right? Ragnaros, Alex, Sarah.
Pretty similar. It also, I would say it's kind of like a Darkwonix deck, really greedy. And I was talking to Hype before tournament, and he told me that he didn't expect Shaman. So this deck is super greedy. He did cut Brawl, he did cut Baron Geddon, because he assumed that nobody will play Shaman, and people will mostly play like Priest, Warrior, Hunter, where he's banning Hunter, Handlock. So he made a guess that Shaman is not there. And right now, it might actually bite him because he is playing that greedy warrior with no AoE kind of removal against the Shaman. So he is disadvantaged. Where I think Warrior has kind of like an even matchup against Shaman. Here without those key cards, it's certainly worse.
Well, how about this, Nimsh? You know, Amaz still has to play around Brawl for a while. So until Hyped actually is in a point where he needs to Brawl, he can actually play with an extra card in his deck, not having to actually use Brawl, right? Because he doesn't have it. So Amaz is still going to be a little careful for it. There is going to be a point where, you know, Amaz actually just commits and just tries to bait it out with small minions, and then Hype doesn't have it, and then, you know, he has to kind of figure out another alternative to beat it. But until then, you can kind of leverage that knowledge that what cards usually in Warrior decks and be able to do anything else. Also, another way to potentially build this out, by the way, is Harrison Jones on something like Doomhammer or even Kel'Thuzad. There's plenty of ways for Hype to actually just get such a large advantage that it's insurmountable, but it's going to be a little bit tougher than normal.
It's certainly a possibility that Amaz will play around Brawl, but if you remember the last tournament, the VGVN, Amaz was playing around Brawl the whole game till I think Reels actually got that Brawl as one of the last cards.
Right.
So maybe this time he will be like, YOLO, let's just ignore the Brawl. He probably doesn't draw into it, and Hype will never draw into it. So it will be definitely interesting to see what Amaz decides.
All right. Well, game number 4, excuse me, is about to begin. Game number 2 was a few minutes ago. Hyped started off strong with Miracle Rogue, but now let's see if he can choose his Warrior deck and show a little bit of his versatility outside of the dominance of the deck that he used to climb ladder.
Oh my God,
things
what
off
happened?
and keeping Sludge Belcher.
Amaz doesn't have a coin. This is something new.
Hype's not playing Miracle Rogue anymore, so I guess he can finally get the coin.
So let's compare the hands in here. From Amaz, he kind of missed the early drops, but he always has the trusty totem that he can utilize with Flame Tongue if he wants to. He has Numbers Inventor. Well, his hand looks kind of clunky, but it's not that bad. And from Hype side, he got Armor Smith, which is pretty cool. He has a lot of late game cards. That coin might actually be pretty important if he wants to play a 4-drop, but then he will have nothing on turn 5. So coin is good, but his hand is kind of weird.
I feel like coin is okay to a certain point in the early game, but when you start getting to the late stages in a control matchup, you want to start having the ability to have an extra mana, and that's where things like Ramp Druid and Wild Growth really have strong dominance over other control decks. If you're able to utilize that mana efficiently. And that's where Amaz can kind of be able to gather an advantage here. No Mission Venture, by the way, a really important card that's been pushed into a lot of decks because cards like Sludge Belcher, Azure Drake, and Spectral Knight have been taking the spots of the Drake, and so you're able to continue to push out card draw, which has kind of still been missing from Shaman decks because there's so many good Naxxramas cards nowadays, Nims, that people feel like they don't have room for Drakes and Manatide Totems in their Shaman decks. And that's why someone like 6-0 including it was a big deal.
I'm looking at this board, and it really shows how metagame slowed down. Looking at those minions, they almost do no damage. Those players just drop the minions, and they have 0 attack, 2 attack, 1 attack, taunts. There is no pressure from both sides, and it's funny how the metagame actually slowed down after Naxxramas.
Well, you say funny, but I like it. I think it requires players to think a little bit. Think a little bit more, excuse me. Not that players weren't thinking before. Yeah, but a lot of decks kind of play themselves. Like combo Druid with like token kind of made sense. Just play combo if you have lethal.
Are you firing shots at the Zoo players?
I didn't even mention Zoo, but we can throw them in too. Why not? Put them in the kitchen too. I don't mind. Zoo played itself as well.
Zoo is fine. You have to make decisions for your lifetime.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I play this on the left or the right side of the minion. But yeah, for the most part, Naxxramas has increased a lot of the complexity of decisions of how players have to interact with the board. Death Rattle order does matter. Like the fact that you played Death's Bite before or after your Sludge Belcher, so that way your Death Rattle doesn't trigger on your own minion. These kinds of things you want to be very mindful of.
Certainly, and here, by the way, Amaz had a lot of decisions, and I'm sure he didn't want to use that Hex that much, because playing versus Warrior, that's a greedy Warrior. Well, any Warrior actually has a lot of legendary cards, so using Hex on a Sludge Belcher seems like a waste. You know that there will be Ragnaros, Alexstrasza, Grommash, probably Kern, maybe even Geddon, so you're like, I will have so many targets for those Hex cards. But on the other hand, he was in a situation where he had to deal with the board, and he had to kill those cards. And right now, after clearing the board, he is able to extend a bit. And you see, he's not playing around Brawl. Like, he was happy to play all those minions in here.
Well, even so, it's a little more brawl-proof. You still get minions off of the spectral spiders that spawn. I think you bring up a good point, by the way. Like, Amaz did take a while to figure everything out. if he wants to go for the board clear. Because look at the minion quality of what's in my hype saying. He's got 3 cards worth hexing. Sylvanas, Karen, and Ragnaros. And unfortunately, he can't do all of them.
Well, right now, Amaz can hex another card, but then he'll have to face a reality where he's out of hex cards. So now it's a decision. Do I really want to overextend? And he does over.
Nope. Brawl's not going to even be in the back of Amaz's mind, just going for it. I think he recognizes that he's used his removal, and he's just got to take this opportunity because now is the time for him to push through and add some damage. Black Knight off the top for hyped is also pretty good, so that way he can start addressing the board without just being really passive. Because if he allowed the damage to get snuck in, you never know. Like Alec here off the top from Amaz would have probably been lethal there. All right, and it seems like Amaz does have some pretty good options here. The Doomhammer provides the ability to add some burst. How much are you afraid of something like Harrison Jones? Or do you want to develop the Fire Elemental, which also represents damage? If you're winning, how do you kind of extend here without playing into something that just allows you to lose the game? Like if you get Harrison Jones, does that rebound the warrior enough to draw into something like Brawl?
I feel like Doomhammer is actually cool. If there is you just take a gamble. If there is a Harrison Jones, he will draw a lot of cards, but on the other hand, it's 5 points of mana, and Harrison Jones is not that good as a card facing this kind of board. But on the other hand, if there's no Harrison Jones, Doomhammer is such a good card because you play it, you deal 4 points of damage at the same turn, and then you just continue dealing the damage and getting the armor out. So a pretty good card, but here decision of playing Fire Elemental is also good. You just ignore the Brawl. There is no need to fear. You just push.
It feels like the board has been worthy of a Brawl already, and most likely he'll have to top deck it if he even has it. Which, by the way, Hype doesn't. And in fact, I don't see a way for him to kind of answer this board whatsoever. His best way to survive is shield blocking. Ragnaros feels like an awful play, and there's no way for you to kind of utilize anything else with Karen or Faceless. So Hype's kind of stuck digging for answers here.
Look at Hype's face, by the way. I'm sure he's thinking like, why am I playing against Shaman? What happened? What did I do wrong with my calculations? Why did I cut Brawl?
Well, he drew Shield Slam, so that reduces some of the damage. At least killing off this Fire Elemental. But he needs a way to figure out the macro scheme. Like, how do you get rid of this board? It's so intimidating.
Well, it's 9 points of damage, and then the Doomhammer. So now Amaz will have to think: do I play the Doomhammer, or do I fear Harrison Jones? Because a possible Harrison Jones, Amaz is in yellow mode, okay, but a possible Harrison Jones would increase the chance of drawing into Brawl. But on the other hand,
he can't play both, though.
Yeah, he will only have 9 points of mana. So right now we are in yellow mode, and just go for it. One card in hand. Like, if there is a Brawl, you just lose.
Well, we know that there is no Brawl, and Hype draws Unstable Ghoul, which doesn't give him any answer whatsoever. And he's got great quality cards individually in the hand, but this is exactly what Shaman does to Warrior when they allow him to build a board. Good demonstration of it's just like textbook Shaman versus Warrior, honestly.
Yeah, but get Alex Straza himself.
Gain 5 health, really does nothing in this scenario. Hype's gonna try to set up the best line of defense he can. But even so, Amaz is in a really dominant position here.
Oh, Lightning Bolt, I'm sure it's a good card.
Let's see, how can you pair this together? Lightning Bolt. Hack with the Healing Totem. You have 10 damage left. Oh, man. A little tough. Amaz doesn't have lethal at the moment, at least by what we see.
Well, are you sure?
Yeah, he's got 11 damage at most, I think. If he spreads out all of his damage evenly and doesn't allow his minions to die, it looks like he's got 11 damage.
If he attacks with Doomhammer into one ghoul twice, Wait, he can attack one of the ghouls with spider and then a doomhammer, so the ghoul dies. Then he kills the second one with a doomhammer, and he will have
Oh, wait, you're right. Hold
7
on.
points of damage.
Plus the 4 from the lightning bolt.
Yeah, does the ghoul actually deal damage to heroes as well?
No, it does not.
Then
It's a wild pyromancer effect.
yeah, I think then he is 1 damage of lethal kind of.
Yeah,
Or
it's pretty painful. It needs to
That's
kind of get
11,
moving.
yeah.
These animations do take a long time to get sorted. You don't want to miss damage whatsoever, Amaz. Gotta get rolling. I did lose all new spectral spiders too by order of sequencing. And I think got the wolves off just in time and totem it. So there you go.
Now Alexstrasza is an okay card, I guess. 7, 9, 11. No, it's just okay. If he plays Alexstrasza, he's dead.
Yeah, Extras is still not enough to kind of heal him out of this spot. And Gromach doesn't do much, just eliminates a little bit damage off the board, but you still have 5 health, so I don't see a way Hype can sneak out of it. If he executes with Alexstrasza, there's 3, 7, 11, plus the lightning bolt is 15. So,
Dead
no matter
anyway.
how you kind of cut the cookie here, Hype seems to be dead, at least unless you can figure out something else that we don't know.
He needed that brawl. He goes for Alexstrasza execute play, which is reasonable, but because there's only 1 card in Amaz's hand, so it's a possibility that Amaz will have to trade into Alexstrasza. Hype certainly hopes for that, but Amaz is exactly 15 points. Right now it's 16 points of damage.
And even if the spell power totem wasn't there, he had Azure Drake off the top too. So he's got a little bit of insurance in that department. Amaz will tie up the series 2-2. And this is what Shaman can do. It might not have the greatest percentages against matchups. Well, maybe other than this Control Warrior without Brawl. But generally speaking, against the field, it doesn't have the best percentages. But it's still good enough to win in almost any scenario. Not all the time, but a decent percentage. And now the series will go to Mage versus Shaman.
Oh yeah, and Shaman is a very flexible deck, so it can win versus anything. Can it win versus this Mage? And this Mage is really different. It's definitely something totally different than we've seen from 6.0. It's a Giant's control Mage with a lot of secrets, with Mad Scientist, with duplicates, ice blocks, and 1 polymorph.
This is the deck that Tides ran at HyperX Invitational.
Hyped is also playing a lot of control mages. I think like I've
or
seen
did
Hyped
Tides
playing...
get it from Hyped? I don't know. Either way, I know that these guys have shared deck lists, so it seems like they're favoring each other's styles here.
Yeah, certainly it's an interesting deck list. Also, I like the fact that you have those different mage builds instead of just seeing only 1 kind of mage. I think it's a third different deck list of mage that we are seeing in this tournament. We've seen or maybe the second one. Okay, because there was a 6.0 secret mage.
Right.
But
Nimsh, I want to kind of get your opinion real quick on no fireballs, by the way. A fireball, a card that people feel like is such a staple to Mage. The value, just 6 damage for 4 mana and target anything, seems to be very high, and yet it's excluded from this deck.
Well, he's mostly going for the board presence. Fireball is a good removal card, but still he has a polymorph instead. So he's going for just the board control and he's not finishing with the combo. He is just building the board and fighting for the board all the time with cards like Current Savannahs, Sludge Belcher, and Duplicate just being used on those big minions. Like if you get multiple copies of Sludge Belcher, it's really hard to actually go through it. So certainly a deck that's instead of just getting, for example, if you're playing against Zoo, like Fireball is this card that moves something. Like you can remove a Doomguard. But it's probably better to just play something on board and be able to develop the board and consistently build it and get a huge board presence and just win with the minions. I mean, it's an interesting choice. I would love to play Fireballs in my mage deck, but I'm sure I played many games with this control Giants, and he will be more comfortable without Fireballs.
All right, well, let's see how it performs. Take it for a spin. Game number 5 is about to begin, where the winner jumps out to a 1-0 lead in the group stage. An important match for both of them. Let's find out what happens and see how this pans out for Hyped, as he does have the more interesting deck. And right off the bat, he's going to mulligan everything away. Probably needs a better start. As much as it sucks to get something like Twilight Drake Earthshocked, if you have Duplicate in play, maybe that's one way to fight against the normal tool that Shaman has to fight against some of these bigger minions.
I actually didn't notice how many draw cards Hyped has in his deck, but I don't think he has that many. And right now, he didn't get any to his hand. He has Mad Scientist, which is pretty cool. But
I
other
think he
than
has
that,
Arcane Intellect, doesn't he? I think he has Arcane Intellect, and
he needs
Duplicate
to.
is kind of like a draw card.
And Duplicate is pretty cool, by the way, because you get cards outside of your deck, so you increase your card count, and it's pretty helpful if you're playing a control matchup. And Hyped told me that he's very comfortable playing with his mage against all those control decks. That after banning Hunter, Mage was his deck to win the tournament. Like you ban Hunter, and then Mage is a very good deck against all the different decks that people can throw at you. But he wasn't expecting Shaman again, and he is facing Shaman. So I'm not really certain if he can pull it off here. And Shaman with the Earthshocks and it's pretty like Earthshocks and Hexes and a lot of removal is pretty good for against this kind of deck with Twilight Drakes and Giants.
Yeah, but what if he like say this is Duplicate? He coins out Twilight Drake. It gets Earthshock. He has 2 more Twilight Drakes, and he plays it anyways, as if nothing ever happened. In fact, the Twilight Drakes will be slightly stronger next turn because he'll have 2 more in his hand.
Yeah, certainly that's the thing that's countering Earthshock nicely. But there is no Earthshock from Amaz side. Is he going to just kill the Drake?
Oh, he has to. But now he knows it's not Mirror Entity, at least. And now he's hesitant, and Amaz wants to actually kill us off with his minion here. Make himself weakened. It looks like it's not Duplicate. I think it makes sense because Hype did hesitate for a little bit of time. Because I think if it was Duplicate, it's almost an insta-call here on how to play that turn.
Do we actually know which secret is this?
Nothing jumps out to mind. Is it Counterspell? It might be Ice Block. Ice Block is also inside the deck of Hyped.
Well, I haven't seen him actually most over it, so missed it.
Yeah, we can't even see it, even if it does. Duplicate comes in the hand, by the way. Another a way to kind of deal with a lot of the minions is Frost Nova and Doomsayer, so that way you can push it out. But if it gets Earthshocked or Hexed, you're still kind of sad.
And Amaz actually got Earthshock, and Hype can assume that Earthshock is not there because his Twilight Drake was not killed with it, but Amaz did top deck it, so unfortunately, this gamble didn't pay off. Did stop the minions for 1 turn, though. Now he has a 0-5 blank. And when it dies, well, he has to play the Duplicate now.
So Ice Block is in the hand, but it's not glowing, which means Ice Block is activated for Hype. You can't play a second Ice Block. And with double Molten Giant in hand, Hype does have powerful swing turns that can come up with Molten Giant. It's just that Shaman also does have reach if they're playing, you know, like Doomhammer, or they silence your minion and they just kind of push through, even if you're able to taunt it. So as much as you have these lines of defense in a way to potentially bring yourself back in the game, you have to be careful as the mage because Shaman can still burst through you.
On the other hand, he doesn't have any taunt givers. He has Slash Belcher as a taunt, but even if he's able to play those Molten Giants after dropping very low, he will be in a situation where he can just die next turn. Well, Ice Block is really helpful because he has kind of like a double. Right now, being having 1 Ice Block on himself, and after dropping Molten Giants, he will be able to play another one. But still, he is in a weird spot.
Okay, so now Amaz can bring Hype down to 10. And if so, he's playing Molten Giants, and I don't think Amaz is aware of this, so then that's going to allow Hype to play everything with the Giants and then his normal turn, which looks to be like a very big swing of things if Amaz can't push through here.
Well, the thing is, like, Amaz probably can't expect what kind of deck Hype is playing. So the Molten Giants might be surprising for Amaz. Let's look at his face.
Looks slightly concerned, as that is a full board. And keep in mind, he does have Ice Block number 2. Is Amaz able to push through this at the moment? And more importantly, is he afraid of potentially dying on the backswing? Because there is 18 damage past the Sludge Belcher.
Lightning Storm is so powerful with double spell damage. He rolls high on the
he rolls
Belcher.
high on the Belcher. Very important.
Sick. Well, right now he can just effectively clear. I wonder which secret actually Hyped got.
I would have to imagine it's duplicate. Which, wait, no, if it's duplicate, it would have procced perhaps already. I'm not sure. Duplicate sometimes is really weird with AoEs and a mad scientist. Sometimes it procs on the minions that are killed, and sometimes it doesn't.
As far as I'm aware, it shouldn't proc because it enters play after all the minions are dead.
This will get duplicated, the 1-2.
Yeah, this is a duplicate.
All right.
Yeah, it is a duplicate. Sick. He got so many taunts.
Well, hey, they're like smaller versions of Voidwalkers, which allows you to squeeze in your mana. You can play them next turn, potentially. By the way, he wants to pop this Ice Block and still be able to answer all these big threats.
Yeah, not bad. Got the Ice Block out. He dealt with one giant. He's comfortable at 26 point health.
Amaz has pulled himself in a position to potentially win the game. But Frost Nova.
Frost Nova is super important here.
Yeah. Wait,
and Amaz's hand, like Amaz can't even play a minion.
Yeah, he can't rush him down with like Alakir or something if it's frozen. He needs Doomhammer to pop the Ice Block.
For free mana, Hyped has a card. Free mana, get a next turn. Like a Time Warp or Time Walk from Magic. It's
yeah, skip your opponent's next turn basically, while being able to squeeze an Ice Block. And you know what? These minions that with Taunt also allow this Molten Giant to be active. So unless Amaz has a way to neuter with like Hex on this Molten Giant, that's going to be 2 shots. Maybe Hype can still pull this out. And with Ragnaros in play, you never count anything else out. Because I think if he's able to pierce into damage... Okay, well, check this out, Nimsh. If he attacks with the Molten Giant twice, and then the next turn he attacks with his 2 small minions, and Ragnaros hits the face, that's lethal.
That would be sick. But still, that's too risky.
Yeah, way too risky.
Do you think he wishes to have Fireballs in his deck right now? With Molten Giant attacking for 8 and then attacking for 10 next turn, that will be 18. And he'll have to deal 8 points of damage. So even Fireballs...
I think more than that, he cares about something like Flame Strike more.
If he gets, if he gets a Flame Strike or Blizzard, that's huge.
That is massive.
Now even Arcane Intellect would be good. Twilight Drake is not something he wanted. Well, but he can safely play Ragnaros, by the way.
Maybe he wants more taunts and like duplicating, and then put out like a. Oh, but the Twilight Drake is so pitifully weak.
Yeah, I think like Ragnaros is fine because you still have one more turn. So you play Ragnaros like being a big threat. You have an 8/4 giant, so you can still kill something if you want to, or you can just push with damage, and then your opponent will have to go through 2 small taunts and will have 2 big threats and still have to deal 4 points of damage to be able to pop the Ice Block. So potentially he has 2 more turns or even 3 more turns depending what Amaz will decide to do.
It feels like almost no matter what Hype does, I don't know if he can prevent getting popped here. So I think Ragnaros is his best shot, and he wants to take out this Twilight Drake because that'll extend his life a little bit longer. 1 in 5 chance here, Nimsh. Oh, that's almost the worst one possible because it procs more than minions to be able to be alive here.
Yeah, and easily go through the taunt slimes. On the other hand, Amaz doesn't have a way to deal with Ragnaros right now.
But he can set up a big wall, Feral Spirits, totems, Harvest Golem.
By the way, I think like attacking into that Spectral Knight was kind of weird. Like I would go for face and just hope, because then Ragnaros has more hit value. You have 2 big minions that you can actually hit. And on the other hand, if Ragnaros hits face, then it's 16 points of damage and you leave your opponent at 10. So your opponent will have to clear. But yeah, he doesn't have fireballs. He
Hmm.
doesn't have a Pyroblast in his deck, so I guess it was an option as well. Kind
All
of like a
right.
safe
Well,
play.
I don't see a way for Hype to survive this.
If he plays duplicate and then Amaz, instead of killing him, decides to kill Ragnaros.
And he's done it. Amaz has come back down 0-2, and he's won the series 3-2, as he played very well with his Shaman deck for 3 games in a row, and showed that he doesn't need to rely on Priest or even some of his other decks that he's been using commonly. And Amaz starts off 1-0 in the group stage. Well played. Hyped falls down despite starting off really great with his Miracle Rogue. What do you think here, Nimsh?
Well, a slight miscalculation from the hype side that people will not bring Shaman, but I guess it was reasonable because Shaman is not that popular right now. It's not the strongest deck. But Shaman is still there. It's still a contender. It's a deck that's really stable, and we've seen Sixo using Shaman as his main deck to counter Hunters. So here it was kind of sad for Hype to face the Shaman and not be able to push through. It seemed like he has a good chance with the deck he had, but well, it didn't go well for him, and Amaz played really well. Amaz knew that those matchups, and he played well versus Miracle Rogue, being able to rush it. Then he took his chances against the Warrior. He was yellowing it and not counting for Brawl, which paid off splendidly as well. In the last game, also he did good. He made good trades. He used his cards to his advantage. I feel like that the last game was actually the easiest for Amaz to play against the mage because he had the biggest advantage. But still, he wouldn't be there if he wouldn't play well the other two before. So again, a splendid play from Amaz. Hyped also played really well without any mistakes. So I really enjoyed this match, and I'm happy for more matches from Hyped. I think they're amazing.
Well, Hype will actually be showing up in the next series. He has an opportunity to redeem himself versus Tice. And if Hype loses that series, he's probably out of this group and tournament already. And Tice will have to open up strong too for his department, trying to show that he belongs in this tournament as well. Before we go to break, we want to remind you guys about the promotion that's going on. If you go to the bottom of the Twitch channel or type giveaway in the chat, you'll find an opportunity to win a cyber-powered PC that is a Zeus Mini. You can check it out and find out more information about VGVN, which is the Video Games Voter Network, and a little bit about their organization. They help combat harmful legislation against video games and voting rights. They also promote all the cool stuff about video games, like the educational, scientific, and artistic benefits of gaming. Joining is free, and VGN just wants to welcome new members so that way they can inform them about what's going on. So check it out while we take a break and get ready for Hyped versus Tice. We'll be back soon.